Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer the Over podcast. I'm your host, Austin Groff, alongside Ethan French. Sorry, we took a little break there for a little bit because I unfortunately tested positive for the coronavirus and French has been home. So we're actually doing this over Zoom, but I'm going to have to transfer the audio. Our records are getting really good right now. French is getting up there. He's now standing at a record of 50, 34, and 1. I'm at 56 and 47. We still tweet out our picks almost every day. We got a lot of sports to cover with the NBA Finals starting now tomorrow. The Heat versus the Lakers.
I might
We had
I
go
might
ahead,
be
French.
jinxing myself here a little bit, but 8-2 in my last 10. So I'm on a little bit of a streak, but yeah, feeling pretty good.
And yeah, like French, you had some good UFC picks there. We saw Anazanya won in a second round TKO. That was a very impressive win. I also had that pick. And then you had the Brandon Royval pick. I love that pick. That was hype.
That was a great fight. And they were both slugging. Royval got knocked down early, but he had a mean spinning back fist that put Cara France to the ground. And then guillotine choked him in the second round for submission, which, man, he just looked brutal when he was wrestling on the ground. But yeah, that was an awesome fight to watch. You also mentioned Adesanya. Costa just looked like a little boy out there compared to Adesanya. He couldn't even land a punch. He talked all the smack, but then
Yeah.
he didn't even get like a really good looking hit on Adesanya. It was Adesanya all the way.
Yeah. And now he is 20-0 all time, still has yet to lose in UFC. And then also with big sports starting up, we got MLB Playoffs starting tonight. We're filming this Tuesday afternoon. We got some really good games. The Astros versus the Twins kicking it off at 2 p.m. in 20 minutes. And then the game of the night is the Yankees and the Indians. We got Garrett Cole and Shane Bieber facing it off each other, two elite pitchers. So that's going to be a really great series to watch. And the Yankees have been rolling recently. Their offense is looking really good. I know, French, you don't really follow baseball that much, but I will be tweeting out some baseball picks for the playoffs. It's going to be a very fun and entertaining time. Even though there's not fans, it's been a weird season without fans in all sports, but especially the MLB. I feel like having the fans there for like home runs and stuff just makes the atmosphere electric. But do you have anything you want to say about the MLB? I know you don't really follow it that much.
No, I found out the playoffs started today. Yesterday.
Yeah. So that's that. And then NFL, we're now into the third week, just finished up last night. There's now 7 teams that are 3-0, and some of the teams you wouldn't expect at all. The team that I have been the most surprised by and the team that I should have gave more recognition to were the Chicago Bears, who are now 3-0. Somehow, in some way, they are 3-0. With Nick Foles coming back, the Falcons blowing yet again another, I think it was like 16-point lead or something. That's 2 games in a row where they've been up by huge margins in the fourth quarter. We've seen that now. And I think those little next-gen stats don't really mean anything, but they're saying, they had a 98% chance to win the game. They blew both of them against the Cowboys and Bears. So shout out to Matt Nagy, our local native from Lancaster County, for carrying the Bears to 3-0 now. And then we see the Chiefs 3-0 with a very impressive win over the Ravens. The Steelers are 3-0.
Step
Your
in here
team.
quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think the Bears are a good team. I like for you Bears fans. I'm sorry to say it, but wins over Detroit, New York, and Atlanta. I'm a Steelers fan, so you can make the same argument for the Steelers because they have not. Their opponents are combined 0-9, but I don't think the Bears are legit. They're not playing anyone, and they're also playing close games. They beat the Lions by 4, which they did come back to win, although it should have been a loss had DeAndre Swift not had that brutal drop. They beat the Giants by 4, and it was a nice comeback win against the Falcons, but Falcons just are notorious for choking second half leads, so I'll leave that one at that. You also mentioned the Chiefs are 3-0. Obviously, I think they look legit. Lamar Jackson last night looked pathetic.
So bad. He could, dude. Oh my gosh, he had Mark Andrews open so many times in the end zone, he couldn't get it to him.
Mark Andrews
He
also
also
had.
dropped that one, but still,
Yeah,
I
that was
think.
pretty good though. I was playing Mark Andrews in fantasy, and I kind of needed him to do bad, so
Yeah,
worked out for me.
I think I saw a crazy stat. It was something about that one like Chiefs offensive lineman who had that touchdown, but like you look at all the other players on the Ravens roster, like J.K. Dobbins, Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews, Mark Ingram, like all four of them had less points than this offensive lineman just because he had that one touchdown. I think they all had like under like 4 fantasy points, which is crazy. It was just a bad game for the Ravens.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
shout out to Andy Reid, dude. Some of those plays he was running were insane. Like the Ravens, they blitz by far the most out of any other team in the league. And you would see that last night. Andy Reid was prepared for that. They would like blitz, and then you thought the play was dead. And then like the one time Travis Kelce did a little block and he came out from the side and he was wide open, got an easy first down. They did that so many times.
Yeah, there's a number of these teams that have attractive records so far that I don't think are that great. Um,
The Titans are also 3-0.
I I don't
Which
know.
the Steelers and Titans are supposed to face off, but now 3 Titans have tested positive. I think it was 3 for the coronavirus, so they're not even practicing right now. So who knows if that game's going to go down?
If I had to take a guess, I don't think it would, but they have not come out and said anything otherwise. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think the Titans are a decent team. I just have a hard time buying into Ryan Tannehill because Ryan Tannehill is just like not that good.
Yeah,
And they're a one dimensional team for the most part. They like to control the time of possession and run the ball at Derrick Henry, and yeah,
and then we
um,
also do have the Seahawks. Your team to win the Super Bowl is now 3-0. So I've been amazingly impressed by them with my guy RW.
I think the Seahawks are legit. That entire division looks good. The Cardinals, I was really high on through 2 weeks. Tough loss to Detroit this Sunday. I don't know if that speaks more to. I believe Kyler Murray had 2 or 3 turnovers, so I don't know if that's what got them in that game. Maybe the Cardinals aren't as good as what I thought. Maybe the Lions aren't as bad as what we thought.
Stafford
Um,
also played really well.
yeah,
He had 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. Adrian Peterson led the team in rushing on 75 yards.
uh, other teams in that division. I haven't been a fan of the Rams, but um, they really gave the Bills a run for their money, had the lead late
Yeah,
in the
that
fourth
game was
quarter.
crazy.
So maybe the Rams are legit, and the 49ers, despite having pretty much like every starter on their team hurt, few big losses for them. Nick Bosa going down with an ACL tear. They're
That
still
was
2-1.
unfortunate.
They still look like a solid team. So yeah,
The reason why, like I had the Bills -2.5 as one of my locks, but the reason why I took them is because like I didn't trust Jared Goff to throw the ball, and we saw that like the Bills went up big, and I was like,
yeah,
oh wow, this is crazy, and like I kind of guessed that the Bills would win this game just because their rush defense, and that's what the Rams offense is all about is rushing, and Jared Goff normally doesn't attempt that many passes. He ended up throwing the ball 32 times for 21 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like it was a really impressive game for Jared Goff.
yeah. I agree. I think the Bills are a pretty good team too. I've been incredibly impressed with Josh Allen this year. He is could very well be in talks for MVP conversation so far this year. However, I've not been impressed with that defense, especially you know a lot was expected out of them coming in this year. They have a few studs on that defense, especially Tre'Davious White. However, they gave up 32 to Los Angeles, 28 to Miami, and then 17 points isn't a ton, but those to the Jets who suck. So
Yeah, and speaking of the Jets, they just announced. Well, this is not about the Jets. They just announced for Thursday night, Jets versus Broncos, that um, Jeff Driscoll will not be starting. They're starting. His name's Brett Rypien, I think, from Boise State. So he's starting. I've never heard of him. Have you heard of him?
No, Brett Rypien.
Yeah.
I just got that alert too.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see that. And then the only other undefeated team is the Packers, who've defeated the Saints in another highly entertaining game.
Yeah.
But Drew Brees is honestly, I don't know.
I, you know, I think Drew Brees is still a good quarterback,
Yeah.
but not having Michael Thomas has definitely
Oh, for sure.
exposed him.
Hmm.
I don't want to, take too much off of him, but um, I don't know what the final number was, but at one point in that game, it was either halftime or the third quarter. Drew Brees' average depth of target was like 4.5 yards. So he was on average throwing the ball down the field 4.5 yards, which I understand he's old, so he doesn't have the arm, but you can't dump the ball off to Kamara every play and expect to do wonders with that. I know he turned one of those plays into a huge touchdown, but that was all Kamara. Um, so yeah. Also on that note, I have played Kamara's receiving yards the last 2 weeks. He has gone for
Lock.
97
I think he
and
got that in like the first quarter.
139. He's averaged like this on Monday or Sunday. He had 14 targets. Until Michael Thomas is back, Alvin Kamara receiving yards is getting hammered in my book every day, every week.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah.
The other thing I wanted to talk about in the NFL was shoot, it was just on my mind. I forget what I was gonna say, but I wanted to talk about my locks. I had the Malcolm. Oh, that's what it was. The over and the under. So I know this podcast is called Hammer the Over, and so far NFL picks, the over has hit 67% of the time. So like two out of every three games, the over has hit.
Didn't the over hit in every single one of the 1 o'clock games this week?
Yeah, something like that. But I was reading an article and Vegas is adjusting now. So expect more unders to start hitting because the overs are going to be set a lot higher now, the over unders. So expect more unders to start hitting from here on out. Or it's probably going to be more balanced, honestly. But from what I've read, Vegas is adjusting their lines and their numbers right now. And then we saw last night in that game, the over under was 54.5. And talking to my friends, I was looking at it and I was like, that's a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was going to take the over under for that game, I was taking the under. Now, obviously, the first half was crazy, and the game ended at 54. So if you took the under, it barely hit. But that was crazy to see getting like I knew a lot of people who took the over in that game and it didn't hit because of that 0.5 points. He missed extra point from Harrison Bucker and the missed field goal.
Yeah.
That was crazy to watch.
I've kind of been calling my shots, I guess, on the over under. My biggest over under play was this Sunday in the Green Bay New Orleans game. I tweeted that out. I think I had the line was at 51.5, and I believe they went to 67. So they smoked that number. That was a part of my Sunday bailout. And yeah, I know I was talking to our one buddy who we were texting about the game, and he said he just had a feeling. His gut feeling was it was going to go under, and I told him I felt bad for him because that game had offense written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk briefly about my futures picks here. I had the Steelers, Ravens, Chiefs, and Seahawks win lines. Steelers and Seahawks were 9.5. They are both off to hot starts at 3-0. Especially my Steelers. They look. Ben looks pretty good so far. Hasn't made too many mistakes, and that defense is just scary. They're averaging 54 rush yards a game. No one can run the ball on them. They held Saquon to 6 yards on 15 carries in week 1. But then the Chiefs and the Ravens both have win lines set at 11.5. They were both undefeated heading into last night, but obviously someone had to win. So the Chiefs are also at 3-0. The Ravens are at 2-1. So I'm feeling confident about all those picks thus far. One other thing I'd like to note is the injuries we have seen so far in the year, not only with fantasy implications, but with just, implications for teams. We've seen McCaffrey get hurt. We've seen Michael Thomas get hurt. Julio's missed some time. Kenny Galladay's missed some time. There's been a lot of big names get affected with larger injuries. So that's unfortunate so far.
Yeah, I've been also surprised how there's been so many injuries, maybe just because there wasn't a preseason and players are getting into things right away because of just COVID's messing things up. But yeah, it's unreal how it's been like that. I want to talk about my picks a little bit. I had the Patriots -5.5. They covered against the Raiders. They destroyed the Raiders after the Raiders' impressive win against the Saints.
I don't think I'm
Go
not.
ahead.
I'm not sure about the Raiders. They're
Yeah,
they're
I don't know.
they're an intriguing team, but I can't get behind Derek Carr. I don't think he's that good.
I think I don't think Darren Waller only had 2 receptions for 9 yards. I think he was held receptionless in the first half. And Hunter Renfrow was our leading receiver with 6 receptions on 84 yards. But I don't know. Their rushing game just wasn't there. Josh Jacobs couldn't get himself going. And that's what their offense seems to rely on a lot is Josh Jacobs just being the bell cow back. And then when they get in the red zone, do those little play action plays, But I don't know. Like, I don't understand how they went and they just beat a really dominant Saints team. And then maybe we're overlooking the Patriots here. Maybe the Patriots are a lot better than what we think.
I think the Patriots are surprisingly are better than what we thought, especially going into Seattle, losing that game by 5, but having the opportunity. For those that didn't watch it, the Patriots had the ball on the 1 going in with 1 second left, 2, 3. They had enough time for one player, and they're on the 1 yard line. So the Patriots had a chance to go into Seattle and win, which I know without the fan, Seattle is such a huge home field advantage. But the fans obviously aren't there. It's still not an easy feat, though. I give props to the Patriots for that.
Yeah, and their rushing game was crazy. They had a total combined 250 yards rushing. So Michel had 117. Rex Burkhead had 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 1 receiving. That man went off in that game. So shout out to fantasy owners who might have started him in deeper leagues. And then for my picks, I went 3-2 with NFL picks this weekend. I had Patriots -5.5, like I said. I had Seahawks -5.5, which hit. I had Malcolm Brown under 44.5 rushing yards, which I saw was a lock because Malcolm Brown was even the starter. I think he only touched the ball 3 times. And then the 2 that didn't hit were the Titans -2.5. They won the game, but just barely against the Vikings. So that one was really close. And then the other one was Joe Mixon over 65.5 yards. And the reason I picked that is because the Eagles defense has looked awful. It did look awful. That game was probably the biggest joke of the year so far, going in the overtime, and no one could even score. And then the Eagles have a field goal attempt, and they get that flag and back it up. And then that's the game. They just settle for a tie, which I don't understand what that was about. That was just a frustrating game for both Eagles and Bengals fans. That definitely has to be the worst game of the year.
That was a bad football game, and the Eagles look
so ugly.
The Eagles are not looking good.
Yeah, so the division is by far the worst division in the league right now. Like, Eagles winning that game would put them tied for first, which is why I was expecting, this is a must-win game. Like, if we win this, it's huge because we're tied for first with the football team and the Cowboys. It's not if we even win next week, we're going to be right in there of winning the division. I mean, the Cowboys play an easier team, I believe, this week. They're projected to win. I believe they play the Browns. Yeah, they play the Browns. So that's a must-win game for them too, because you never know, because maybe the Redskins can come back. The Redskins had a close game this week too, I believe.
They lost.
Oh, they lost to the Browns. I think it was close earlier on, but then the Browns pulled away.
They lost by 14.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just a weird division. The Giants are awful. I saw that one guy who bet on the Giants to cover and Daniel
Poor
Jones to go
him.
off, but they got steamrolled 36-9.
Pissed 1 million down the drain with the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, especially not having Saquon Barkley hurts big time.
Yeah. All right,
Uh,
then I think that just about wraps up NFL.
yeah, do you want to give our NFL picks for this week before we move on to another sport?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's still pretty early here in the week. Um, I have a few picks laid out here that I'll briefly talk about, and
And then we'll officially make these certified locks when we like tweet them out. But like we'll talk about the ones we like here.
yeah. So the Steelers at the Titans. Should this game happen, it's in Tennessee, but I think the Steelers will cover. The line opened at 1.5. I just played it at 2.5. Um, so I like the Steelers in that one. Should the game happen. Also, I like the Niners to cover 6.5 against the Eagles. I know the Niners are banged up, but their defense still plays really good football. And the Eagles, especially Carson Wentz, have been awful this year. Carson Wentz, I don't know if he is after this week, but I think at one point he was tied for the league in interceptions. So yeah, he's not looking too hot. Aside from that, I like the Bills to cover 2.5 against the Raiders. That is the 425 game and is in Las Vegas. So those are the 3 picks that caught my eye so far.
So last week I'm going with two of the teams I've been riding with so far this season. The Seahawks, I got a -6.5 versus the Dolphins. I easily see them winning by a touchdown against that team. Dolphins now 1-2. They had an impressive win against the Jaguars we saw in that Thursday night game, but I just feel like the Seahawks are too good. Their offense, unbelievable. At the same time, they have pieces there on the defensive end too. And then my other pick is the Thursday night game. I like the Broncos against the Jets. I just feel like the Broncos overall are a better team, even though they have some injuries in Philip Lindsay and Drew Lock. I love what Noah Fant's been doing. Melvin Gordon had an game last week, but his first 2 games were good. And then I just feel like the Broncos defense is better, and the Jets are just terrible.
I think that's fair. The Jets are 0-3 and are dead last in point differential this year. They've only put up 37 points, but they've allowed 94. They're -57 or -57 the differential, so they're losing by just about 20 a game. So yeah.
And the over-under for that game is only 40 points. So what do you think about that?
It's going to be an ugly football game.
Yeah. I don't even know if I want to like touch this game. But I do like the Broncos, but it's going to be like the last week's game with the Jags and the Dolphins.
The Thursday night games they have been giving us are absolutely pathetic.
Yeah.
It's not even worth watching. We had the Dolphins and the Jags, the Browns and the Bengals, and now the Broncos and the Jets. Like, come on now. This isn't even real football. This is just it's pathetic. It hurts my eyes to watch. It really does.
You know, I feel bad for Joe Buck and who's the analyst that does the games with him? Former Cowboys guy. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
they've been getting the worst games. Like, I feel like last year we had some good I feel like it was reversed. Like, the Thursday night football games were really good last year, and the Monday night games were just awful. And now we're seeing like the reverse. Like, the Monday night games were really good this year. And then my final pick, I'm going with the Patriots +7 against the Chiefs. We saw the Chiefs kill the Ravens this week, but you know, the Patriots.
Aikman.
What'd you say?
No.
Oh yeah, Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
But yeah. We've seen like the Patriots have been playing well, and they covered, or they didn't cover against. Maybe they did cover against the Seahawks. No, they didn't, because I think it was like 4.5. They lost by 5, but they haven't lost like a blowout game yet, and I don't think Belichick's gonna allow that to happen. He's gonna scout up that Chiefs offense and get his team ready for it. This honestly might be low-scoring game, I see it with the Chiefs and Patriots. The over-under's at 54. I might take the under on that game. What do you think
Interesting.
about that game?
I don't know. I think there's gonna be offense.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll tweet those picks out. But yeah, that basically concludes my picks for the NFL. So we can move on here if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so let's go to college football, and then we'll conclude with the NBA Finals because that's probably the biggest sporting event going on this week, other than MLB Playoffs. But I would say NBA Finals is more important than that, just depending on your viewpoint. But for college football, the pick that I had as my lock was Oklahoma State against West Virginia -6.5. They covered that. Even though they didn't have Spencer Sanders, I still believe that Chuba and that offense could have done it, and they did, just because West Virginia isn't that great of a team.
I played Miami -13.5 against Ole Miss.
They look so good.
They did. That being said, Lane Kiffin also almost got a very angry message from me. Who goes? Ole Miss scores, and they go down, 16 with a minute left.
I wish I would have watched that game. I didn't watch it.
They're down 16 with a minute left. No chance. But they still onside kick it. Miraculously, they recover it. And then they march down the field and just about score. But fortunately, they didn't. I was just about off my rocker on that one because going into Saturday, I was down pretty big and I just needed a win. So they clutched that out for me. Aside from that, I had Miami -10.5. I wish I put way more money down on this game, but I don't even know why the line was that close. Like, Florida State is not a good team. They don't have a good defense. The coach wasn't even on the sideline with them. Norvell got COVID and was watching the game from his house. So they didn't even have their head coach for the game. So
yeah,
that might have been the easiest pick of the year.
Yeah.
Miami's a good team. De'Aaron King looks like De'Aaron King, like we expected him to. So there was no surprise in that one.
I think easily the biggest game of the week is Auburn, Georgia. I haven't really looked at the other games, so I'm not going to tell you guys any picks right now. But I think that Auburn, Georgia game is going to be a great game. It's definitely going to be game day. I'm a huge Bo Nix guy, so I might take Auburn. The spread's currently sitting Georgia at 6.5 right now. But what do you think about that game, French?
I don't believe in Georgia. I never do, year in, year out. Georgia's just one of those teams that is typically a disappointment. They never make it out of that SEC alive. And I honestly thought at one point they were going to lose to Arkansas. They were down 10-5, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe it was midway through the third. Then I guess all of a sudden they decided they were going to play a little bit of football. I know they had a big pick six. They ended up winning that game 37-10, but man, they cannot come out and play football against Auburn like they did in that first half. Auburn had a tough week one test against Kentucky, won easily 23 or 29-13. So yeah, there's a few other good games on. Alabama A&M play this week. A&M had a surprisingly close week one victory over Vanderbilt, but nonetheless they won. That's a number 2 versus 13 matchup, so that should be something to keep your eye out for.
That's a really big spread too.
There are a few games here that I think are pretty aggressive. The LSU Vanderbilt matchup is set to 20. I've heard some people say it could be just a fluke on Vanderbilt's side that they only lost by 5. Or that being said, I think the bar was set way too high for this LSU team. No, I don't mean to knock them too much, but when you lose that many starters, it's tough. It's tough to maintain those expectations. That being said, too, they've also had their best player coming into the season, Jamar Chase, opted out, and then Singletary, who was their best remaining player, was out for the game. So that line set at 20, like I said. I think it's pretty aggressive, mainly because I don't believe in LSU. The other game I'm also looking at is Arkansas, Mississippi State. Costello threw for 630 against LSU, which was ridiculous. Um, that being said, are we hopping on the Mississippi State hype train too early? They went from unranked to 16 with one win.
Yeah.
That line against Arkansas set at 18. Arkansas, I know they lost by 27 to Georgia. However, I think that's a team that might be able to cover. Felipe Franks is their starting quarterback. He, of course, transferred from Florida after he lost the starting job to Kyle Trask last year when he got hurt. So I also think that's a game that could be closer than what we expect. The final game of that caliber, I think, is the Texas TCU game. Texas had a miraculous comeback. They were down 16 with 3 to play against Texas Tech, came back and won that in overtime. However, they didn't play any defense, and TCU had a very close loss to Iowa State, who's not a terrible team. So the line on that's 13. I think TCU might be able to make it closer, but I'll have to look into that a little more.
Yeah, we'll look in more college picks and we'll tweet them out to you guys like we've been doing. But finally, let's talk about the NBA Finals.
Going back to college football here for a minute.
Okay.
Last time we had a podcast, this was not out, but the Big Ten
and yeah, you're right.
Big Ten and Pac-12 will be playing football. I don't know why it took so long for those idiots in the Big Ten. Kevin Warren, you're a moron. I don't know why it took them so long to make that decision. They could have made this decision a month or two ago, and they could have already been playing football.
Yeah.
But instead, Kevin Warren decided to drag his feet, be a little baby, and now we're starting the season late. The Big Ten's playing a 9-game conference-only schedule with the Big Ten Championship on December 19th. They will be bowl eligible, and in fact, they got added to the rankings this week, the Big Ten teams and the Pac-12 teams. Pac-12 is starting later and only doing a 7-game series. So I think it'll be interesting to see how a shorter season affects them. I think 9 games for the Big Ten is still a pretty reasonable amount of games. 7 for the Pac-12 is just small. I think everyone in Pac-12 is just stupid. They're all idiots. Pac-12 football is not real football. It's just they're the betas of the Power 5 conferences. Oregon's not legit. So that's how I feel about them. With that being said, they did not put any respect on these Big Ten teams in the rankings. I mean, Ohio, we're Penn State fans, so Penn State students, so we should hate Ohio State, and I hate them with a passion. But to put them at 6 is just, it's absurd. I hate to say it. Ohio State's a good team.
I feel like Justin Fields could contend for the Heisman too.
Yeah, it'll be tough with a shorter season for him to contend for the Heisman.
Yeah.
But then Penn State at 10? Are you kidding me? Penn State would beat Texas, Miami, Auburn. They beat Notre Dame. I think Penn State's the 5th best team in the nation. They'd probably beat Georgia. I'm looking at the rankings right now, and it's Clemson and then three SEC teams. Come on. No. Florida's not the best team in the nation.
Georgia, if we had Micah Parsons too.
Yeah. I don't know.
Unfortunate.
I think they screwed the rankings up, but that's just me.
All right, so NBA Finals. LeBron James is facing off against his former team and coach in the Miami Heat, and Eric Spoelstra. LeBron won his first 2 NBA championships with the Miami Heat. This is now his 9th NBA championship appearance in the past 10 years, which is crazy that last year was our first NBA Finals without LeBron, and now he's back in it with the Lakers. And it's going to be a wild one. It's the Lakers' first playoff appearance since 2010. So I was kind of hoping to see the Lakers Celtics rivalry come back, but at the same time, it's kind of cool to see LeBron face off against his former team. But how do you see this series going, French? I know where you're going.
It ain't
So
gonna be close. It ain't gonna be close.
I know that's how I feel.
Like the Heat are a good team.
Yeah.
I talked about liking them. They play great team
Oh
basketball.
yeah.
They have a lot of guys who can contribute. Tyler Hero had that huge game in the Eastern Conference Finals, but how do they match up against the Lakers? You're talking
I was looking at this too because like
the Lakers start LeBron,
mm-hmm.
AD,
Yep.
and Dwight Howard. Now I don't know if they're going to start Dwight Howard in the series because this Heat play a little more small ball lineup.
Yeah.
We're talking about Bam Adebayo, who's 6'9", on AD, who's 7 foot. Adebayo is a good defender, but AD's going to tear him up in the post.
It's like the same problem we saw with the like the Rockets and the Blazers and the Nuggets too. Like they don't have anyone who can guard both AD and LeBron, and at the same time get another player in there who can stop that center that the Lakers are starting, whether it's Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. And another problem with that is that not only do the Lakers get a lot of points from LeBron and AD just dominating their mismatches, is that they get so many second chance points. They're leading the league right now in offensive rebounds, and we've seen that teams can't stop AD and whoever's down there in the paint getting those rebounds. Like they're so massive, and then their guard play hasn't been like we know they have like Alex Caruso, Rondo,
It's not been
KCP.
anything crazy, but it's been
like it's enough for them to win.
Yeah. Going back to this matchups, like I'm assuming Jimmy Butler's going to try and play LeBron. But Jimmy Butler's 6'5", 6'6", maybe. But like that's a mismatch all day. LeBron will just body him.
And you telling me that like Jay Crowder is going to guard JaVale McGee or
actually I heard Jay Crowder could be a potential matchup. I'm sure they're going to do something stupid and put Iguodala on LeBron.
Get Max Kellerman in here. Maybe he wants Iguodala to take the game-winning shot.
Yeah, I don't know. Iguodala is just old. But yeah, I think this is a Lakers win in 5. Similar to literally every playoff series they've been in. So yeah, I could see, maybe one of those nights Jimmy Butler goes for 35 and then Robinson and Hero catch fire and they get three players combined for like 85. But if that doesn't happen, I don't think the Heat are winning 2 games. So Lakers in 5, I like them.
I got the Lakers in 6. I see the Heat stealing a game early. I kind of see that as an advantage for the Heat, where they have players who can go off at any given night and go get 30. And they have multiple players who are getting double figures. Whereas like the Lakers, all the teams they've faced previously, they've had a standout player. They've had a player who's like a go-to player, for example, Damian Lillard, James Harden, Jamal Murray. So the Lakers were able to identify that player and contain him. Where in this case, like we don't know. That's why the Heat have been so unpredictable because you don't know who's going to go off in any given night. Like, is it going to be Tyler Hero? Is it going to be Bam? Is it going to be Jimmy Butler? Is it going to be Dragic? Is Duncan Robinson going to come out and hit like 5 threes in the first quarter? Like, we don't know what's going to happen. So that's why like the Heat have that advantage. They're so unpredictable because they have multiple players who can go out and go off on any given night.
Yeah, I agree. That could be a problem for the Lakers, but I don't see anyone stopping LeBron and AD. The Lakers played the Heat twice in the regular season, won both matchups by 13 and 15 respectively. So yeah, I'd like to, going back, like I've said this before, but like LeBron is clearly on a mission.
Yeah. I was really just about to say that.
He, was, I'm sure he was excited to win the Western Conference Finals, but that's not their large goal. And he did not, celebrate like they had just won the championship. He's looking forward to the NBA Finals. But also in the last, 2 or 3 games of that series, Who was guarding Jamal Murray in the fourth quarter? LeBron James was guarding one of the most electric guards in the league, and he was shutting him down. It's just you don't see players step up like that. And to watch, it was special to watch LeBron do that. It really was.
Yeah, like he's unbelievable. He's on a mission right now. He's averaging like 25 points per games, 10 assists, 8 rebounds. Like it's unbelievable.
It really is.
Like he's on a mission, and he is out there to prove and try to make a case of why he should be considered the best player to ever play the game, because it's just been wild to see this era of LeBron come through in here in the past 10 years.
Yeah. I know this happened a little while ago, but I would just like to say I've been saying this team was overrated, but how about them Clippers? How about them Clippers?
Yeah, and now Doc Rivers just stepped down, which is no one saw that coming.
He stepped down, or did they?
I'm pretty sure he stepped. I don't think they got rid of him.
I don't know. All I'm gonna say is Paul George overrated. Anyone who thinks Paul George is a superstar, you're wrong, because he looked terrible in the playoffs, and I think they're a player away. Everyone thought, oh, Paul George and Kawhi is the best duo in the league, but come on, man, come on, it's Paul George. Come on, he's not that good. Marcus Morris, haven't said his name in a while, but man, is he bad. That team is just.
Why can't we ever go during a podcast and not mention that man's name?
Dude, because he's so bad. I hate that man. Just
how about when Paul George clanked that 3 off the side of the backboard?
I know, dude. Paul George needs to reevaluate. Like, he needs to sit back and make some big life decisions. He needs to sit down and think for a few months, because he's just doing something wrong.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny. So I don't really have anything else to mention about that game. I think we both agree that you have Lakers in 5, I have them in 6, but I think we can both agree that the Lakers are going to dominate this one. But you never know. Maybe the Heat will come out and surprise us, but I just don't see that happening.
Sir?
Is there anything else you want to say, French, before I close it up here?
No, I think that is about it. Good to be back filming, and we'll continue putting picks out on Twitter. Once again, these episodes are now on Spotify, so if you don't like listening to shit on YouTube, no one does, go check it out on Spotify. So yeah.
All right, that concludes episode 8 of Hammer the Over podcast. I'm your host, Austin Groff, here with Ethan French, signing off. Hammer the Over, happy betting, and we'll see you guys next week. And stay tuned and check out our Twitter for our picks. I'll put them in the description, and that way you'll see our picks as we tweet them out daily. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next week.